ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया शृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मेधा देवी जुषमाणा न आगाद् विश्वाची भद्रा सुमनस्य माना त्वया जुष्टानुगमाना दुरुक्तान् बृहद्वदेव विदथे सुवीराः त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवी त्वया ब्रह्मा गतश्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वत्र विनो न मेधे मेधां महीन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना वुभावा धत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती सा मां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषत स्वाहा आमा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा बिन्वमाना सा मां मेधा सुप्रतीकाजुषन्ताम् मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि अग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। एकदन्ताय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om Sri Sai Ram. Loving pranams are the lotus feet of our most beloved Lord, Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba Varu. It is indeed a matter of great blessing, honor, and privilege for me to invite you all to this 27th episode of Gama Agama lecture series on Vedas, the foundation of Indian culture and spirituality, being organized by Sri Sathya Sai Samyukta Shruti Shreni of Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization. Today we are indeed very fortunate to have with us yet another highly devoted, pious and dedicated soul, Sri.Sanjay Sahni, to share with us his precious learnings on Sikshavali, his perceptions and the knowledge that he gained through the Manana Yagna and Nitidhyasa Yagna with all of us. Sri.Sanjay Sahni is an alumnus of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. He has been associated with Bhagawan Baba since he was a boy. He was a student of the first batch of the 5-year integrated commerce program from 1982-87. He won the gold medal for the academic excellence for his Bachelor of Commerce as well as Masters of Commerce programs. In 1987, Sri Sahni joined Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning as a faculty member in the Department of Commerce. From 1990 to 93, he was the warden of the Senior Boys Hostel at Prasanthi Nilayam Campus before moving to the Brindavan Campus. He taught in the Department of Commerce at Brindavan Campus before becoming the director of the Brindavan Campus in 2002. Later, he moved to Prasanthi Nilayam Campus to serve as the controller of examination of the Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Today we are indeed extremely fortunate to have such a disciplined, dedicated and devout soul to generously share with us his valuable learnings at the lotus feet and his perceptions and thoughts on the Vedic mantra Siksha Vali. Over to Sri Sanjay Sahni. Sai Ram.
श्रुतं मे गोपाय
सहना ववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। I offer my loving pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan, revered elders, brothers and sisters, heartfelt greetings from Prasanthi Nilayam to the listeners of Gama, ãgama lecture series on the Vedas being organized by the Sri.Sanjay Sahni organization, India. I am grateful to the organizers for this opportunity to do mananam on some aspects of the Vedas, an aspect which was very, very dear to our beloved Bhagwan. There are any number of occasions. 23rd November 1962, at the time of the inauguration of the Veda Pathshala at Prasanthi Nilayam, Bhagwan said that my mission is fourfold: Veda Poshana, Vidvat Poshana, Dharma Rakshana, and Bhakta Rakshana. So, with this fourfold mission, Vedas have been a cornerstone of Bhagwan's mission on earth, and it's very important. Devotees give importance to the learning, understanding, and absorption of the message of the Vedas. For today's deliberation, I have taken up a portion from the Shikshavali of the Taittiriya Upanishad. The Taittiriya Upanishad has 3 sections: the Shikshavali, Anandvali, and Bhriguvali. So this particular portion is from the Shikshavali of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which is associated with the Krishna Yajur Veda. This mantra was chanted in our university's convocation under the guidance and inspiration of Bhagawan Baba for the last 40 years. And it has important messages and principles for daily life which are enshrined in Sanatana Dharma. Vedamanuchyacharyo ante vasinamanu shasti. So, after having instructed the disciple in the Vedas, the Guru is giving them this message: Satyam vada dharmam chara. As the disciple leaves the hermitage of the Guru and goes into the wide world to lead his life in the subsequent stages as enshrined in the Sanatana Dharma, the message of the Guru is: speak the truth, practice Dharma. One thing which we find in the Vedas and which is very different from the Shastras, the Itihasas, and the Puranas, is that the message of the Veda is very cryptic. They are authoritative commands, and it is only when you practice it and observe great, illustrious, virtuous people practicing the message of the Vedas that you will fully understand their import. So, Satyam Vada, speak the truth. Swami says the downfall of society began when instead of Satyam Vada, people started indulging in Satyam Vadha, not speaking the truth, but the killing of truth. Similarly, instead of Dharmam Chara, when they started indulging in Dharmam Vada, that was the beginning of the downfall. Meaning that we need not have to practice Dharma as long as we speak Dharma, we speak nice things, virtuous things, our obligation to Dharma is fulfilled. That is where man's downfall begins. So we'll come back to this beautiful message of the convocation mantra in a little more detail at the subsequent stage in these deliberations. Swadhyaya anma pramadaha. Now, the literal meaning of Swadhyaya is that you recite the Vedas and do not become inattentive to this responsibility after your education is over. But Swami has given us a much more deeper meaning to the word Swa. He said Swa literally means Atma. So Adhyaya of Swa is Swadhyaya, which means it is an inquiry into your own truth, into your own self. So that is something which you should retain throughout life and never give up. Acharyayam priyam dhanamahritya prajatantum mavyavachhetsi. So as you complete your education, what does your guru require? Whatever he likes, offer it to him. That is the message. I remember many years ago, there was this boy in our university who was leaving the portals of the university after his education, and Bhagawan gave him this message. He said, one thing I want you to do when you go out into the world, whatever you do, don't get me a bad name. This is what that boy had shared with all of us. So what the Vedas are telling is, what does a guru like? What is it which will please his heart? Give that to him. It's not that you have to give him some wealth or a lot of gifts. What does he like? And the guru that Bhagavan is and which we all experience, look at his message. Whatever you do, do not get me a bad name. So this is like an ideal for every day for that individual in life. Prajatantum mavyavachhetsi. Do not cut off your line of descendants. Now, this has got double connotation. As an individual completes his student life, brahmacharya life, he is entering into grahastha life. So the message is, do not cut off the line of descendants. So may you take care of children. There's one very strange kind of phenomenon that we observe in today's society. It is called the DINGS syndrome. Double income, no kid syndrome. Both husband and wife are working and they are so obsessed with their careers that they mutually decide not to have children because that will come in the way of their career progress. Actually, this is against the spirit of Sanatana Dharma as is being explained in these lines. Prajatantum ma vyavachhetsi. Because whole life is actually based on giving. We received so much when we were small kids from our parents, and you pass it on to your own children. However, one query that can arise in this context is, what about those who are not blessed with children? Not that they didn't want to have children, but God's will, they don't have children. What about those who chose to become lifelong brahmacharis? I remember our late president, Dr. Ep27 Abdul Kalam. He was visiting Karnataka state as president of India, and he used to love to interact with youth and school children. So there was a little girl who got up in the audience and asked him this question, President sir, how come you are a bachelor? This was a question, and Dr. Abdul Kalam was very astonished with that question. He said, I am not a bachelor, I am a brahmachari, he said. Brahmancharyati iti brahmachari. Of course, there is a very interesting story behind his own life, how he remained a celibate for life. Apparently, his parents had fixed his marriage, and the parents were very concerned that he was so busy with his scientific research, he may not return in time for the marriage. So they expressed this anxiety. He said, no, don't worry. You fix the marriage and I will come when the time comes. But it so happened that on the marriage day, Abdul Kalam could not turn up. He forgot it was his marriage day. And then it dawned on him, if I cannot remember my own marriage date, do I really deserve to be married? And that's how he took the decision of remaining a lifelong brahmachari. But the point that I would like to make, for example, you take great sages, monks like Adi Shankara, they did not also lead a married life. So what does this injunction of the Veda mean for such people? So what it means is that just as you have received the gift of knowledge from your teachers, continue that lineage by sharing your knowledge, sharing whatever you have learned with your students, with your disciples, and continue the line of descendants of disciples. So if you lead a householder's life, it has one kind of connotation. If you don't have children or you decide to lead lifelong the life of a brahmachari, even in such circumstance, the Vedas enjoin that you should continue the lineage of disciples and give them the right direction in life. Satyam pramadidavyam, dharman pramadidavyam. Now look at this. You have already said Satyam vada dharmam chara. Now again the message is coming back in a slightly different form. Do not be heedless to speaking the truth or practicing dharma. Now, are the Vedas not being repetitive? Is it redundant? Now, in this context, I would like to say that whether you take the Vedas, whether you take these scriptures of other faiths, for example, the Quran, one characteristic that we find is, and that is because they are in the spirit of mother or parents. They know that the child, when they tell them first time, they may listen, they may not listen, it may register, it may not register in their minds. So they continue to repeat the message till it becomes a part of their inner consciousness. This is how parents do when they bring up children, and this is also the spirit of Vedamata. So the point is made and the point is repeated so that the disciple does not forget the message, does not lose sight of the importance of the message, and is continuously reminded to practice the message. Kushalan pramadidavyam. So practice whatever is good and proper, don't be inattentive to that. Bhutyena pramadidavyam. Whatever is for your well-being, material well-being also. Do not swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramadidavyam. Not only you should practice the same, but you should also not hesitate in communicating it to others. So you have benefited from the message. Do not hesitate to pass on that message to others as well. Deva pitta karyabhyam na pramadidavyam. Now, this is your responsibility to the devas and the ancestors. You know, in Sanatana Dharma, we talk of the Panch Mahayagnas. So there is the Deva Yagna, the Rishi Yagna, Bhuta Yagna. So various debts which we have to pay to various people, Pitra Yagna. So this is what is being referred to here. Whatever is your responsibility to the devas. One of the connotations of deva is angirasa. In the human body, every limb is permeated and operational because of the blessings of some deity. So because whatever we are doing is by the will of God, we need to express our gratitude to the Lord. I remember many years ago, there was a student in front of Brindavan. Swami was interacting with them and the teachers. And suddenly Swami picked up this boy and asked him to raise his right hand. So he lifted his right hand and Swami said, put it down. Raise your left hand. And he lifted his left hand, put it down. Now raise both your hands. So he raised both his hands, put it down. After all this was over, and all the others were curious spectators to what Swami is up to, Swami then instructed this boy, raise your right hand. And then when he wanted to raise his hand, this is what one of our professors shared with me. He said he could not move his hand even a centimeter. He could not raise his hand. So whatever we are doing, even with our human body, it is with the will of God. And we should be grateful if we are looking, we are walking, we are talking, we are eating, we are breathing. It is the deities who are being given that responsibility to take care. When we go to sleep, we do not know what we are doing, but the body and is doing its job perfectly. So we need to be grateful to all the gods, the deities. Pitra Karyabhyam, to all our ancestors. There are so many blessings that come to us because of our ancestors. Swami would often tell the students in his university, do not think that you have got this opportunity to study here just because of your punyam. It is the punyam of your ancestors or getting you here. I was visiting Bali Island in Indonesia, and one of my observations was that there are two characteristics of Sanatana Dharma which are still practiced by the residents of Bali Island. Incidentally, 95% of the citizens in Bali Island of Indonesia, which is a Muslim country, 95% of the people in this particular island are Hindus. And there were things I found which they practiced very, very intensely. I went to a hotel, I visited a restaurant, I went to a shop in an airport. I would find that wherever we went, there would be this small bamboo basket filled with eatables. It was the application of the principle of Bhuta Yajna. So they want the birds, they want animals, they want insects to come and partake the food. Like in our good old days, in childhood, our mother would ask us, before you start your meal, take a little portion and put it on the windowsill for the birds to come and eat. So this is very integral to the daily Indian life. So this was one characteristic which I found there. The second characteristic, I was visiting an ancient house and I found they were mentioning to me that this is the portion of the house which is dedicated to ancestors. The next day, I was walking next to the ocean bed in an early morning walk, and there was this girl who came out of the house and she was making a beeline to a particular altar and she was offering fresh flowers at the altar. Then only I realized that what she was doing was she was offering her daily worship to that portion of the house which is dedicated and kept aside for the ancestors. So because of these two characteristics, gratitude to ancestors and the application of Bhuta Yajna by offering food every day to the birds and the animals and insects, I observed that in Bali Island, it is such a prosperity that the people have. There are no beggars. The whole island is devoid of any beggars. They don't need to beg because all of them, in their own way, are materially taken care of, well off. There were beggars in the capital city of Indonesia, Jakarta, but there are no beggars in Bali Island. So you see the gratitude to ancestors, gratitude to our parents is so integral to Sanatana Dharma and with such wonderful benefits which humanity enjoys. In fact, I was talking a few days ago to one of our alumnus, and he had taken this executive development program at Chicago Booth School. So there was this assignment he had got, write a letter of gratitude to any person whom you feel is very important in your life. So he had written a letter to his mother. And then in the question answer session, the professor was asking him, why is it that you wrote this letter now? Have you written a letter like this to your mother before? And if you did not, why not? And then he tried to explain. He said, sir, in our culture, because even we heard it from Swami, when we would thank Swami, Swami would say, don't thank me, do you thank your mother? So he also expressed that in our culture, we do not thank our mother. I mean, they do so much for us. We are grateful to them, but we don't formally thank them. And this is our culture. And this is what the professor said. He said, see, I have dealt with students from 100 countries coming from different races and different cultures. And let me assure you that in every culture that I have come into contact with, in every culture, there is this reverence for parents. So what you are saying that is very unique to Indian culture and not to other cultures is not true. So see, this is what takes human society forward, no matter which part of the world you are in. This is true as much as in India, as much as it is anywhere in the world. It is true as much as it is in today's times as it was in ancient times. Then, Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava. So, first adoration. Whom should we adore first? Matra Devo Bhava. Mother is the first person to receive your worship. Father is the next person to be worthy of worship. And then third comes the Guru, Acharya Devo Bhava and Atithi Devo Bhava. Any guest that you have, it could be a human, it could be an animal, in whatever way, to whatever limited extent you can, do offer them your respect and treat them as equal to God. Yani navadyani karmani tani sevitavyani. So, look at the democracy and the Catholicity of the sages of yore. They said, whatever actions are irreproachable, anpadhyani, whatever are irreproachable, those actions only you should imitate, those actions only you should follow in your life. No itarani. So they're saying that if you observe that we are indulging in some action which is not desirable, do not imitate us in that respect. Look at the greatness of the sages of ancient India. I remember this episode Swami would narrate in the life of Adi Shankara. He wanted to teach his disciples a particular lesson. So one day when they were in the travels, he finds that there's a liquor shop. And to the utter amazement and horror of Shankara's disciples, Shankara enters the liquor shop and he partakes of the liquor. And the disciples immediately start getting doubts. What is this Guruji? He's got bonkers today. He's drinking liquor, something which is not at all good, not desirable, unethical, immoral, or whatever, all those kind of thoughts they were having. Anyway, Shankara was as sober as he started. And then he started again on his travel. And after some time, they came to the shop of a ironsmith and a blacksmith. And Adi Shankara enters into that shop and this hot iron is getting melted. He goes into the area of the furnace and he takes that hot iron, melted iron, and he starts drinking it. And now the disciples are really, perplexed. He says, what is this happened to our Guru? The other few minutes back, he was drinking liquor. Now he is drinking this iron which is not fit for human consumption, but nothing happens to the constitution of Adi Shankara. He drinks it happily and then comes out. Now all this turmoil which has taken place in the minds of his disciples, that was the intent and personally designed by Shankara. Then he gives them a message. He said that some of you all, when I was drinking the liquor, said, oh, Guruji himself has started drinking liquor, so why not us? And they were looking at their own, dreaming about their own liquor drink in the near future. He said, if you want to imitate me in matters relating to drinking of liquor, then why are you feeling appalled when I drank that molten iron? If you have the capacity to do both, then only you must imitate me completely. Otherwise, you don't have that authority. So the great masters, they define their own path. It's not that everything that they do, we can imitate as ordinary human beings. Therefore, the sage of this Taittiriya Upanishad is telling his disciple, only those actions which are irreproachable, such actions only you should follow, not other actions. Yanyasmatakum sucharitani tani tvayopasyami. So those of our actions which are virtuous, such actions only you should follow. No itarani. Do not follow other actions. Ye kechas mrachaya gumso brahmana. So all those actions which you find us doing, brahmanas doing, tesham tvayasarena na prashvasitavyam. When you find us in the company of great, illustrious brahmanas and we are deep into spiritual inquiry, you should not open your mouth. You observe, because you are learning and your experience is very limited. So this is something which we also had when we would be with Swami. Many a time when we enter into his presence and he would ask, Em Samacharam, what questions you have? Do you want to ask me anything? Many a time all of us felt it was best to keep our mouth shut. And in that silence would emanate from him beautiful messages which were so appropriate for all of us. So when you enter into the presence of the one who is all-knowing, who is so evolved spiritually, don't whisper a word. Just be in the presence, and that itself will be a great education for all of you. Shraddhaya deyam. Now, giving or sacrificing is very, very integral to Sanatana Dharma. Na karmana na prajaya dhane na tyage naike amritatva manasuhu. So, the Vedas tell that tyaga alone and nothing but tyaga or renunciation will take you to immortality. So, when we have to give, how do we give? Shraddhaya deyam. Give willingly. Ashraddhaya adeyam. Do not give to anybody unwillingly. If you want to give with full heart. If you don't want to give, do not give. But do not give unwillingly. See, many of Swami's devotees, they have taken inspiration from Swami. Swami would, on occasions, he has said that when you give money to a needy person, that money can be misused. So once he mentioned also that don't give money. Whatever they need, you can identify the need and give. Supposing somebody is hungry, you can give them food. If you give money, then there is a possibility of it getting misused. So there was this devotee in the United States, Mr. Hal Onig, and he had made it a personal sadhana that he would make sandwiches every day, and when he would go out, if there were any beggars on the road, he would give these sandwiches to them. So there was this lady near his apartment. Every day she would be the recipient of his sandwiches. So one day when he left home in the morning, that lady was not in the usual place. He could not give the sandwiches to her. And then there were other people, so he distributed that day's quota of sandwiches. So he was returning home after his work, and when he was returning in the evening, he finds that this beggar lady is at her usual place, and he remembered that he had not given the sandwich in the morning. So he was out of stock, and he didn't want to face the embarrassment of meeting her because he was empty-handed. So from the corner of his eye, he observed her and he tried to go towards the apartment from the other side of the road. But this lady saw him, and then she started chasing him, and he was so afraid to meet her. He started running, but she ran faster and she caught up with him, and she accosted him face to face and said, "Why are you running away from me today?" And Harmonic said, "I'm so sorry, the sandwiches are over." But what that lady said is something so beautiful. She said, "Sandwiches are not important, good people are important." And what she meant was that she looked forward to meeting this person who had such a large heart, a loving heart. It is his love which she was hungry for, not the sandwich. And to be deprived of that little conversation, little interaction was what was paining her and why she ran after him. So when we have to give willingly, do not give unwillingly. Shriya there. Give according to your fortune. Whatever you can, if you have nothing physical to give, you can at least give a sweet smile. You can just share a little bit of your time with that person. So it is not only material things which you need to give somebody. So give according to your fortune. Kriya there. Give with modesty. Right? There's this great saint in northern India. He was also a member of Emperor Ashoka's Darbar. He's written a number of beautiful compositions on Sri Krishna. He's a great devotee of Sri Krishna, though by birth he was a Muslim. His name is Raskan. So this gentleman also was very charitable person, very generous hearted. But one thing which people observe, whenever he would give things to anybody, the needy, they would find that his eyes would get lowered. So somebody asked him, "You are the giver, the other person is a mere recipient. Why is it that your eyes are getting lowered as if you're very embarrassed giving something to that person?" So Raskan, in a beautiful couplet, he says, "Benahar koi aur hai, bhejat so din mein, log bharam hum pe dhare, tate niche ne." What he says is that the real giver is someone else, the Lord. He gives it to me, and I am just an instrument passing it on to these people. But people, in their ignorance, in their innocence, they are under the delusion that I am the giver. And I feel so embarrassed that the credit which should actually be going to the Lord is being given to me. And in that embarrassment, my eyes are lowered. So give with modesty. I remember I was a second year undergraduate student, and one day Swami called me for an interview with devotees. And during the course of the interview, he waved his hand and created a watch. for a lady devotee. And it was a very unique watch. Swami said that it will not require any battery to operate. It will run for life. And all the adjustment that you ever have to make for the watch is with respect to the correct time. And there was a small hole on the dial. He asked for a pin and he inserted the pin in that hole, and the hands of the clock automatically watch started moving and it became the correct time. Swami said this is the only adjustment you have to make and you don't have to make any other adjustment. So this lady was so delighted to get that gift from Swami. She kept on thanking Swami and she said, thank you, Swami, thank you. When for the third time she told Swami, thank you, Swami, immediately Swami spontaneously said, no mention. See, normally when somebody gives something to somebody, they said, hey, at least you must acknowledge that I have given it to you. Give me the due credit. And sometimes people want it to be put in the newspaper also. Look at this. The Lord of the universe, He has given everything to us. And when He gives this little gift of love to an individual and that person expresses gratitude, his spontaneous response is, no mention. Please don't mention. Don't embarrass me by saying that you are grateful and thank me for that. So give with modesty. Bhiya there. Give with fear. Why should we give with fear? I remember one day when Swami was in Brindavan, about 4,000 villagers of Puttaparthi in 400 were so apprehensive that Swami may not return to Puttaparthi for months together. They went to Brindavan to invite Swami. Because Swami was very delighted to see them in darshan. He said, I'll give you special darshan. Let the regular darshan get over. Let all others go. You'll be here and I'll come back to you. So after the regular darshan was over, they were seated all in the Sai Ramesh hall as well as the road between the hostel and the Kalyan Mandap. And I happened to be an eyewitness to the special darshan that Swami was giving them when he was going amidst them in every lane where they were seated. And I was watching it. My room was in the ground floor of the hostel building. So I was watching it from my window, the whole scene. And just under my window, there were these there, and Swami came up to them. And Swami asked, "Main vibhuti deta tum khata?" So first these people were so shocked that Swami had stopped by them and he was talking to them. They could not respond. But again Swami repeated, "Main vibhuti deta tum khata?" When they understood what Swami was intending to do, oh, you should have seen their smiles beaming from ear to ear. And they said, yes, Swami. And then Swami waved his hand and gave them vibhuti, which they immediately partook. Now look at Swami. He is the creator of the whole universe. He wants to give these people vibhuti prasadam, but he is taking their permission. He said, I do not want to do something which may embarrass you, or if you don't want to take it, I will not give it to you. Can I give you vibhuti? If I give you vibhuti, will you accept it? Will you eat it? And see, look at the humility of the Lord. When you give with fear, because why with fear? What if that other person receives? So, with the trepidation in the heart, not with ego, but with fear, with modesty. That is how we have to give. Samvidadeyam, with full agreement you give. This is the beautiful message on giving that we have in this section of the Shikshavali. Atayadite karma vichikitsa va vitta vichikitsa vasya. If you have any dilemma with regard to what action you should resort to or what should be your conduct in any specific situation, what will you do? Ye tatra brahmana asam marishinaha. So wherever you are, there will be some noble ones who are located in your own vicinity. They are impartial, yukta ayukta, experience. They have great experience of life and also what is right or wrong. Ayukta, they are disinterested, detached, independent thought. They're not influenced by X or Y. So that independent judgment they have. Aluksha, gentle by nature. Dharmaka masyu, intent on following the dharma. Yatha te tatra varteran, as such people would proceed. Tatha tatra vartetha, such should be your actions as well. Athabhyakhyaathyateshu. And then the next thing which they are saying is, how should you deal with people who have been falsely accused? See, generally we think, see, if I have done everything right, if I am not at fault, if I am not doing anything wrong, why should people find fault with me? Why should I be excused of doing something which I have not done? But that is not how the way of the world is. You may be still criticized, you may be accused of things which you may not have done. So, how should you conduct yourself in such a manner? Ye tatra brahmana asam marishinaha. So, those illustrious individuals who are in your vicinity, who are impartial, experienced, independent, gentle, intent on the law, yathate teshu varteran, as such people would conduct themselves, such should be your conduct. Now, Yajnavalkya has said why it is so important. Firstly, when anybody is accused with any charge, human tendency is first to accept, oh, people are saying that so and so is like this, it must be true. There cannot be smoke without a fire. Now, that is not the right way. You should make your own judgment with your own independent kind of study. Don't simply judge people based on what X said something about them or Y said something about them. First, you should not say, if you know fully well that somebody has done the right thing, do not falsely accuse them. Why? Because you acquire, as Yajnavalkya says, you acquire the sin of telling an untruth. Not only that, when you such falsely accuse that person, by that false accusation, Yajnavalkya says, you also take the burden of sin that that individual has on yourself. So it's a double whammy. First, you have incurred sin by doing a wrong act yourself. Secondly, whatever sins that individual has accumulated, you are accumulating and taking it, transferring it to yourself. So that is not in your interest. One day I remember in the Shivratri discourse, Swami said that there is one flaw which prevents individuals from getting liberated. And you know what was that flaw he mentioned? He said that finding fault in others. You think that the other person's fault is so big and you make a big hullabaloo about it. But your own fault, even if it is very big, you think it is minuscule. So this kind of an attitude actually should be reversed. If you have made a small mistake, you should think it is a very big mistake and you should repent and you should correct yourself. And if the other person has made a big mistake also, you should be large-hearted and not immediately look down upon them. So Swami said that this one fundamental flaw in individual prohibits man from liberation, halts his progress towards liberation. Esha Adesha, this is the command. Esha Upadesha, this is the instruction. Esha Vedo Parishad, this is the secret message of the Vedas and the Upanishads. Etadanushāsanam, this is the commandment. Eva upasitavyam, eva muchaitadupasyam. So having understood this, you must have continuously in the way taught above till the very end and never deviate from the same. So this is the beautiful message of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which the ancient gurus would give to their disciple after the completion of their education. I would like to just share some thoughts on two important aspects of this mantra. I touched upon a little Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. This is also enshrined as the logo in the institute emblem of Bhagwan's University. Satyam Vada. Our scriptures say, Satyam Nasti Paro Dharma. There is no dharma which is higher than Satya. Now, what is Satya? Yes, at the very basic level, Satya means to speak the truth. But Satya is also something far beyond that. The true meaning of Satya is that which exists forever. That is, it is beyond the past, the present, and the future. It remains constant. It does not change. That is Satya. So, that is something which is not going to change, and you must be focused on that. That is what is the message at a fundamental level. But Satya also means at a worldly plane, at a practical plane, to speak the truth. Now, why should we speak the truth? Number one, if you speak the truth always, you don't have to remember what you spoke, because you always speak the truth. And therefore, the person who is telling a lie, he has to remember to whom he told which lie. So imagine the kind of labor that has to go on, and whether that person knows or not, but other people who will see the double talk, immediately they will be able to recognize how this person is speaking one moment something and very opposite in the next moment. So you don't have to take so much of trouble remembering whom you told what, when. That is the first thing. The second thing is that when we speak the truth, it's a great purifier of our antakarna. See, if you want to make progress in spiritual life, it's very important that the antakarna, the inner instruments, the inner consciousness should be pure. Then only we can get the darshan of our true reality. So practicing of truth is a great purifier of our consciousness. Swami, one day, he was speaking to our university staff and others who were in the mandir, and he expressed about Ishwarama, and he said, in her past 7 lives, Ishwarama, his mother, never spoke a lie. Because of that tapas, the tapas of speaking the truth, she was blessed in this lifetime to be the mother of the avatar of the age. So look at the blessings of speaking the truth. And the third thing which happens is that when we keep speaking the truth, a time comes that you don't have to speak the truth. What you speak becomes the truth. I remember one of our elders once asking Vairagya Shastri, who used to play the role of Brahma in the Veda Purusha Saptaha Gyan Yagna that we used to have at Prasanthi during Dasra. And he just expressed, because this man was a great exponent of the Vedas. He said, Sir, Swami says so many things, Swami is doing so many things. Is it according to, is it true? Is it Satyam? Is it in accordance with Dharma? And Vairagya Shastri, the great exponent of the Vedas, he said, Sir, what are you saying? What Swami speaks is Satyam. What Swami does is Dharmam. Verdict of one of the greatest exponents of the Vedas of our country. Now, of course, he is no more. So, I remember another instance. There was this saint who was in his own ashram, and there was this funeral procession which was passing by. So somebody mentioned to the lady of the man who had passed away that this ashram belongs to such and such Mahatma. So as they were passing by, she went inside to take the blessings of the Mahatma. And like, any lady comes for your blessing, the Mahatma, as she blessed, touched his feet, he gave the blessing, Dirgha Subhamali Bhava. May your husband live long, So immediately she said, Master, you cannot tell this to me. My husband has died, and we are actually going to the cremation ground for the last rites. And this created so much of restlessness in the minds of the Mahatma. And he said, what is this, I have uttered? Why did I give a blessing like this? The husband has died and I am saying, Dirgus Mangali Baba, I have uttered an untruth. I should not have given that. And as he was going through that restless turbulence of the mind, immediately they heard a commotion outside. When they came out, there was this unusual sight. The corpse, which was tied up and was covered with the cloth, it had started moving, and the people were so frightened. When they removed the rope, they found that the person was alive. So look at it, this man has made a wrong statement, but look at the Lord. Just because he lived a life of speaking the truth, the Lord took upon himself to give back life to that man who had died, just to honor the word of the Mahatma. So that is the power of speaking the truth. Satyam Vada. But it is an art. And if it is going to harm somebody, then we have to be very careful how we speak the truth. See, that is something which comes from experience. I remember many years ago, I was supposed to introduce the actors in a drama at the Shanmukananda Hall, Bombay, when the research scholars had put up a drama on Adi Shankaracharya. And most of the actors in that drama were research scholars. There were a few. I was the only member in the whole team who was a faculty. I had just joined as a faculty, and I had not done my PhD. So we were introducing, and Swami was very particular that we should tell who is this, what is the name, from which state that individual comes, and what is the research that he is doing, what is his research area. So this was this thing. So Swami was going over with me, and I was reading out each name. Then it came to my name, and I looked up to him because I could not tell that I am doing research in this particular topic. So then Swami said, see, when you are comparing and telling about so many people, you can't simply keep silent about one person like that. Say something. Then somebody suggested, Swami, we can say that he is from Delhi and he hails from the Department of Commerce. Yes, Swami said, complete. When, say, 50 people are being introduced and one person gets introduced like that, there is no awkward silence, and people are not so particular about it. You need not have to speak an untruth, but at the same time, maintaining an awkward silence is also not appropriate. So from that point of view, a similar thing, for example, this was a vow on the last day of the Mahabharata war. Ashwatthama had taken a vow that he is going to decimate the Pandavas, and Krishna was well aware what is going to happen. So he takes the Pandavas to the hermitage of Durvasa, and he says, can you do something to protect? And Durvasa says, oh, Krishna, whatever you say, I cannot tell an untruth. He said, no, you don't have to speak an untruth. You just slightly modify your tone. So Durvasa was okay with that, and they made a small pit, and the Pandavas were hiding under it, and on top of that was this plank on which Durvasa was meditating. And sure enough, Ashwatthama comes near Durvasa, and he asks, because he is Trikalagyani, so he asks him, Durvasa, are you aware where the Pandavas are? I'm following them. And Durvasa, of course, a great sage, but he had anger on the tip of his tongue. He said, yes, they are under me. And he said it in such an angry tone. Ashwatthama was so frightened. He said, I don't know what has happened, what has triggered this man to speak like this. If I wait another second here, he will, what curses he is going to lobby at me. So immediately listening to that, he runs away. And that is how the Pandavas were saved from the wrath of Ashwatthama. So Swami says is that how to speak the truth. You don't have to speak an untruth, but how to speak the truth, cultivate it and observe it, how the experienced people do it, and from them learn this art, how Satyam should be spoken. Then Dharmam Chara, practice Dharma. And there's a discourse, it is the 44th discourse in Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 2. What is Dharma and what is not Dharma? I would recommend you to go to the Sathya Sai Speaks, Volume 2 and read it for yourself. But Swami explains in great detail how do we judge an action, what we should do and what we should not do. So he lays down certain principles which are very, very important as a guidance for all of us. So first principle he says is that generally we take a very short-term view of things. We think that it will give us immediate benefit, but a long-term view may be a better approach because the benefits that accrue from that long-term approach of situations and matters will yield far more lasting benefits. So take a long-term view of the situation and not immediately, okay, I can escape this immediate situation without worrying about what's going to happen in the future. The second thing which he said is that individual interest should be subsumed by collective interest. In the Vidur Niti of the Mahabharata, there is this beautiful couplet which goes like this: Tyaje dekam kulasyarthe, gramasyarthe kulam tyaje, gramam janpadasyarthe, atmarthe prithvi tyaje. What he says is an individual can be sacrificed for the sake of a village. For the sake of a family, an individual can be sacrificed. For the sake of a village, a family can be sacrificed. For the sake of the humanity or for the nation, a village also can be sacrificed. And for the Atma, when you're striving to attain self-realization, this whole world can be sacrificed. This is what Vidura explains in the Mahabharata. So that is the same principle, how individual interest should be subsumed by collective principle, which Swami says is that intention of the act is very important and what are its consequences. For example, if you take a knife in the hands of a surgeon, the surgeon is doing a surgery, say a heart surgery, his intention is to save the life of the patient. So what he is doing comes in the domain of dharma. But the same knife in the hand of, say, a dacoit or a robber, and that knife which is used to kill somebody so that he can steal his riches, that act becomes adharma because the intent is very different and its consequence is also according to that. The fourth principle which Swami identified in that discourse, he said, any act should not cause pain to you or should not cause pain to others. So he has given another guidance. Any act which unites your thought, word, and deed. He said, what is the, like dharma? Dharma of sugar is to be sweet. Dharma of fire is to burn. Dharma of ice is to be cool. What is the dharma of man? If these qualities were there, if say fire does not burn, fire will not be fire. So same way Swami says, what is it which defines man? That if this quality is not there in him, he cannot be called a human being. And Swami says, unity of thought, word and deed. He said, this is the dharma of man. So it is another characteristic of dharma. And then he says, if it is an act of dharma, it will foster calmness, it will foster equanimity in you. You will not go restless with that. So if this is what that act promotes in you, then it is definitely in the domain of dharma. And the last principle, of course, this is also what Jesus Christ gave in the Bible. He said, do not do unto others what you do not want others to do unto you. Similarly, do unto others the way you want others to do to you. So these are 7 principles of dharma which Swami identified as a personal, and which Swami, see, Manu, he gives this in his Manu Dharma Shastra, he explains that there are 4 sources of dharma. The first is Shruti. Shruti is the Veda, but the Veda is so cryptic. Dharmam Chara, that's all it says. The second is the Smriti. Our Itihasas and Puranas, they come in that domain. So how the great ones and the evolved ones and the spiritual masters, they acted in their time. The third, he says, is the great, illustrious, spiritual and highly evolved persons who are your contemporaries. See what they do. And we were so blessed that we had the example in day-to-day life of our own beloved Bhagawan Baba. So observe him, do what he does, and that becomes a practice of dharma. And the final source which Manu says is your own conscience. If no other access is there, ask your conscience. Your conscience is the voice of God within you, and that will lead you to the right path. In this context, a small anecdote I will share. I was at that point of time in the early 90s, warden of our Senior Boys Hostel of the university here at Prasanthi. One day I got a message from the secretary of the Central Trust, and he said, Swami is sending the Joy ice cream for you, and he has told me to deliver so many pieces of the ice cream to the hostel. Then my spontaneous response was, sir, we don't need so many. This much is sufficient. You can send us that much quantity. But the secretary says, no, Swami has specified the quantity and I have no option but to deliver that quantity to you. So the ice creams arrived and we distributed to the 600 plus students that were in the hostel, the teachers, the workers. Now everybody was enjoying the ice cream. I was in a dilemma. My dilemma was, now what to do with the extra ice creams, and this is not something which we can defer it for another day, it will melt off, and you don't give anybody a melted ice cream. So I was in a fix and I was thinking to myself, and suddenly this thought came to me that I will give it to the youngest members of our hostel, the 8th class students. We were an age group of 8th class to PhD in the hostel at that point of time, 600 plus students. And I thought I'll give it to the 8th class students, but then I realized that if I send it to them, just next to the 8th class rooms are the 9th class students. And they will feel, oh, sir has given us one piece of ice cream and our brothers are getting 2 pieces. And that again comparison will come. So what I did, I sent word to these 8th class students to come to my office, and individually, personally, I handed over the second piece of the ice cream to them. And of course, they were so delighted to get one more. Who will say no to another ice cream? So when the moment they go out, everybody is having an ice cream in their hand and they are also eating. These people are also eating. Nobody has any two thoughts. And that is how I solved my dilemma. But the story doesn't end there. That evening, when I went to the mandir, Swami called me inside and I was alone with him. And Swami asked, "You all got ice creams today?" I said, "Yes, Swami, we got the ice creams." "Was there extra?" I said, "Swami, yes, somewhere extra." "What did you do with the extra ice creams?" He was so curious. He has graded the test. He wants to know what's the outcome of the test. And then I said, "Swami, I gave it to the 8th class students, the extra ice creams." And then he seemed to be very satisfied with what my response was. So what I mean to say is there was nobody to guide me, nobody to instruct me in that situation. It was such a happy moment for every student and every member of the hostel to be getting Swami's prasadam and to get such a sweet and cool ice cream. But for the warden of the hostel, it was a real dilemma, dharma sankat, and I had nothing to resort to but my own conscience. So conscience is the voice of God, and learn to trust it and believe that God is guiding you, Swami is guiding you from within. So, Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. I'll end this particular explanation with this beautiful saying of Swami. Our late President Dr. Abdul Kalam used to love this saying of Swami so much. In fact, when he went to speak to the parliamentarians of the European Union, he ended his talk with this same saying of Swami, and they gave him a spontaneous ovation. And the President of the European Union had a comment to make. He said, "President, sir, we have not heard such beautiful words in the European Union Parliament as you have shared with us." And you know what are those words? These words of Swami, and which were so dear to Dr. Abdul Kalam, goes like this: when there's righteousness in the heart, there is beauty in character. When there's beauty in character, there is harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the home, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in the world. So this is the guidance that the avatar of the age has given to all of us. The second important teaching, and the last which I want to underline in this whole message of the Taittiriya Upanishad, is Matradevo Bhava, Pitradevo Bhava. And the first adoration should be given to your parents and treat them equal to God. And in Sathya Sai education, whether it is the schools or the university, I consider this teaching as the fundamental first principle of Sai education. In fact, I would tell the students, if you leave the portals of the university, if you have forgotten every other value, but you retain just this one value, and that is reverence for your mother and father, that one principle will bring back all the other beautiful virtues that you have forgotten, you have lost, everything will come back to you. And we saw it, Swami practicing it in his own life. I mean, it was the little prayer of Mother Ishwarama, and Swami translated it by starting an educational institution to the status of a university. She prayed that, "Swami, can you start a small health clinic for the benefit of the villagers here?" And Swami, what general hospital? He set up a super specialty hospital with state-of-the-art medical facilities where people from all over the country, even abroad, have come and got treated, and even today are getting treated. And similarly, when Swami found that drinking water may be made available for the villagers because they had so much of pain and suffering because of the lack of adequate facilities for drinking water, Swami started the Anandpur drinking water project. So these were three little wishes of his mother, and Swami fulfilled it in such glorious measure. I remember when we were students, I was a member of the Institute Brass Band, and 23rd of November, in spite of all the milling crowd in Prasanthi, Swami would make a beeline to Isharama Samadhi and offer his respect to his parents. And being members of the brass band, we would be playing, the various band pieces when all the proceedings were going on. So I have seen with my own eyes. I did have an opportunity of seeing Isharama when she was alive. I was a kid. We didn't know Swami at that point of time. But Swami's reverence for his parents is something which all of us need to practice and imbibe. And I will close with a personal anecdote of how Swami, underlined this particular message for me. It so happened that I was the warden of the hostel, and at one point of time, apparently the students had done some mischief, and Swami was not too happy, and therefore the first person he becomes annoyed with is the warden, that you're not taking care of the students properly. So he stopped talking to me, and this continued for months together, and it was very, very challenging how to do your day-to-day duties when the Lord is not available to clarify your doubts and give instructions. So Ganesh Chaturthi festival arrived, and after the festival there is this immersion ceremony of Lord Ganesha, and the students would come in a procession with all the Ganeshas to the mandir. And what should be the day for the procession? This was specifically instructed by Swami to the hostel warden. Swami is not talking to me. I have no clue how I should ask him. And the pujari would every day be asking, "Sir, has Swami told you anything? Has Swami told you anything?" And I felt very, very awkward that because of my relationship with Swami, the whole of Prasanthi is being held to ransom, because nobody can immerse their Ganeshas till the students immerse their Ganesha. So in that context, I was fully perplexed and had no clue how to break the ice. One afternoon, I returned from college, and a student came to me and said, "Sir, your mother has come to meet you." So she was waiting in a small room which was at the corner of the compound. We used to call it the mother's room. I went and met her. And the first thing I did was, "Why did you come in the hot sun?" Because I knew she was doing Sevadal. She had come for Prasanthi Seva duty from Delhi. And I scolded her, "In the hot sun with all your duties in the ashram, you have come all the way walking. Why did you take so much of strain?" And they said, "No, today what happened, I went to Lord Ganesha at the entrance of the ashram gate, and I broke a coconut, and from the coconut came this fully bloomed flower. And everybody around me said, 'Oh, this is something very, very auspicious. So I have come to give you that coconut prasadam. I wanted to share it with you.'" And then, of course, I was feeling so remorseful. I said, "Look at my mother. Look at her love for me. She has come all the way just to share this so sacred prasadam." And I was all the time scolding her till now. So I took that prasadam, and that prasadam had an effect on my mind, because it said, "Hey, today I've got my mother's blessing, and I have got special prasadam of Lord Ganesha. So I feel a little more confident of approaching Swami today." So that evening, when the evening bhajan got over and Swami was coming out of the bhajan hall to go into the interview room, to go upstairs to his residence, I made bold and went near Swami and said, "Swami, when can we have the Ganesha immersion?" And Swami had not talked to me for so many months. He was not willing to talk even at that point of time. But this fellow in front of everybody has come and asked. So Swami had to say something. He said, "No, immersion cannot be done like that. It's on every alternate day, third day, fifth day, seventh day, like that it has to be done." And he brushed it aside. So the ice was broken, and I had made my approach. Now it is for Swami to decide when he was to have the immersion of his students and for all devotees at Bhakti. So after a few days, finally he sent word to me. He said, "Ask the warden to bring the students for the immersion on such day." And that's how the immersion got done. But I had that particular memory that at a time when the Lord was not talking to me, he was not even looking at me. At that point of time, it was my mother's blessing which was instrumental, and of course Lord Ganesha's blessing to couple with it, which led me back into the grace of Bhagwan, where he started again talking to me. So I have learned it firsthand that mother's blessing and parents' blessing is very, very crucial for success in life, and whatever we have to achieve in life, if we have the Lord's blessing is not far away. And therefore, I would like to end this deliberation on this beautiful message, the convocation message from the Taittiriya Upanishad. The Upanishads are the Jnana Kanda of the Vedas. We have the Karma Kanda, all the Yagnas, Yagas, constitute mantras that you chant there. They are the Karma Kanda. And then there is the Upasana Kanda, there is the adoration of the Lord. And then you have the Jnana Kanda. So the Upanishads represent the Jnana Kanda portion of the Vedas, and they enshrine the highest philosophic thoughts. They not only embody the messages for spiritual realization, but also they have so much of secular wisdom for our day-to-day living, because Veda is like a mother, and the mother will give you everything that you need, both for your spiritual progress as well as for your worldly progress. So my salutations to Bhagwan, who initiated me personally into Gayatri Mantra when I was first year undergraduate student, and that was such a beautiful blessing. My salutations to Veda Mata for being a constant protection, not only for us as individuals, but also as a community, as a nation, and all the whole universe. And these beautiful lines I will end with from the Vedas. Swasti prajabhyam paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahisham go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam samastaloka sukhino bhavantu samastaloka sukhino bhavantu samastaloka sukhino bhavantu. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Om Sri Sai Ram. Loving pranams at the lotus feet of our dear Lord Sai. At the very outset, it is an honor, privilege, and blessing to thank Sri.Sanjay Sahni, the controller of examination, SSSIHL of Her Learning, for generously sharing the fruits of his Manana Yagna based on the vast experience at the divine lotus feet acquired over loving and dedicated penance verily at his lotus feet. On behalf of all the devout participants and on behalf of the highly dedicated Gama ãgama team of Sri Sathya Sai Samyukta Shruti Shreni of Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization, I thank Sri Sanjay Sahni for generously sharing his valuable learnings. Sri Sahni, through his heart-to-heart conversation, has reminded all of us through his convincing divine perceptions about how Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba Varu is verily Veda Swarupa, and how Swami's message is verily how Swami's life is verily his message, which is Sanatana, Nitya, Navya, Bhavya, Veda Satyam. The various anecdotes and experiences which he very lovingly shared with all of us does remind us on how Swami blessed all of us with the precious Vedic knowledge in a very simple and easy way, coming down to our level. As Swami nicely said it, Veda Sara Manta Tisi, Nada Rupamuga Marchi, Venuvandu Tirugabosi, Gana Rupamuga Marpu, Pata Padi Manalanu, Uddharinche. Through his life, which is verily his message, the Vedasara is conveyed very easily to us. This has been very nicely brought to us by Sri.Sanjay Sahni. Let's quickly recall few of the messages which Sri Sanjay ji has shared with us. Through the message from Sikshavali, from the Taittiriya Upanishad under Krishna Yajurveda, Sri Sahani explained to us on the fourfold mission of Bhagavan, that is Veda Poshana, Vidvat Poshana, Dharma Rakshana, and Bhakta Rakshana. He reminded us on Swami's words that the downfall of society is due to Satyam Vadha, Dharmam Vadha, killing of Satyam and Dharmam. He also reminded us that Swadhyaya is a continuous self-enquiry process. Sri Sahani conveyed to us the important message to all of us that whatever we do, we should never get bad name to Vedamata, our Sai Mata. Sri Sahani, through his nice deliberations on Prajatantum Mavyavachetsi, has conveyed to us on how sharing with all the learnings and giving and forgiving leads to the expansion, which is verily the life. Through the wonderful anecdote at Sai Brindavan related to Bhagavan and the student following divine instruction of lifting the hand, he conveyed to us that every part of our body is blessed with divine energy. Indeed, Deho Devalayam. This has to be dedicated to Bhagavan in every respect. The importance and the blessing of Pancha Yagnas, Deva, Manushya, Brahma, Bhuta, and Pitru Yagnas, was very nicely brought home by Sri Sanjay Sahani's observations on the prosperity, joy, reverence of the people to the ancient traditions through the lack of poverty in the Bali island. How following the Panchayagna path, especially the Bhuta Yagna and Pitru Yagna, has bestowed prosperity on this island was very nicely explained to us in a way that we can understand. Through the episodes from the life of Sri Adi Shankara, Sri Sahani reminded us that we should follow irreproachable actions of great masters and should never attempt to imitate them. Thanks again to Sri Sahani for the episodes related to no mention and my vibhuti deta tum khatha. Through these episodes, he conveyed to us, he brought home the importance of the Vedic message on Sriyadeyam, Kriyadeyam, Bhiyadeyam, and Samvidadeyam. Bhagwan himself was very modest, and he gave importance to the mutual agreement before giving anything to anyone. These aspects are from the Bhagwan's life is verily a way the Vedas need to be followed in the daily life. His thoughts on Yajnavalkya's message related to how judgment should be based on one's own experience and exploration is very, very helpful to all of us. Further, Sri Sahani's elaboration on how speaking truth is a purifier and how it helps one to get the inner darshan with invaluable gifts, and further fully relating it to Bhagwan's message on Srimati Ishwaramma's unique blessing to beget Bhagwan as his son as a gift for worshipping truth in her past 7 births did bring home the message and the power of being truthful. Sri Sahani's thoughts on the 7-fold path to judge action consisting of preferring long-term view over the short-term view, preferring collective interest over the self-interest as per Viduraniti, Bhavasuddhi, acts devoid of harm to others and also to the self, unity in thought, word, and deed, and the message from Jesus Christ that do good things to others as you would expect others to do unto yourself, and the dharma of man. These 7-fold path is very timely medicine to all of us. The ice cream episode reminds us on Swami's message to follow one's own conscience when one is in search for right direction. Sri Sahani has gloriously ended his talk with a reiteration on how Swami has set an example of Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava by the way of visiting Srimati Ishwaramma and Sri Venkamaraju Garu's Samadhi on every birthday, and by answering Srimati Ishwaramma mother's prayers to gift the world with free education, health, and water. Further, thanks to Sri.Sanjay Sahni ji for generously sharing experiences from his personal life on how the power of his mother's blessings helped him to get closer to Bhagwan. So through these heart-to-heart conversations, he did convey the importance, power, and the blessings the Veda mantra has conferred on the humanity. He has explained all this through the mantras from Sikshavali. So thanks again to Sri.Sanjay Sahni for generously sparing his time and sharing his rich knowledge with all of us. On behalf of all the participants, on behalf of Sri Sathya Sai Samyukta Siddhi Shreni of Sri Sathya Sai Seva Organization, we immensely pray to Bhagavan to bless Sri Sahani and his family immensely with love, grace, and blessings to carry forward with full energy and dedicate his life for the mission of Bhagavan. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Sathya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshak Bhakta Jana Samrakshak Pati Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashivadana Shrikara Sarva Pranapati Swami Sarva Pranapati Ashrita Kalpalatika Ashrita Kalpalatika Apatandhava Om Jai Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Guru Daivamu Mariyantayu Nive Swami Mariyantayu Nive Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nagena Shayana Om Jai Jagadish Hare Omkara Rupa Ojasvi Ho Sai Mahadeva Sathya Sai Mahadeva Mangala Arati Anduko Mangala Arati Anduko Mandala Giridhari Om Jai Jagadish Hare Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Samasta Lokaha Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Lokaha Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Lokaha Sukhino Bhavantu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti